Next presentation is by Dr. Tomoki Fujii, who's the Associate Professor of Singapore Management University. And he'll be talking about conditional cash transfer experiment in Bangladesh. Dr. Fujii, floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much, Aiko and all the organizers for organizing this wonderful conference. This work is joint with Christine Ho, Rohan Ray of Singapore Management University, and Aversion Choi of Florida International University. So let me begin by motivating this study a bit. I think that you don't really need an introduction on conditional cash transfers, but with the success of progressive conditional cash transfer programs where, households are incentivized by cash to say, send kids to school or make regular visits to health facilities have become a popular policy tool, first in Latin America and then elsewhere in the developing world. So by now, there is a huge body of CCT literature, but evidence on cost-effective design of CCT is rather thin, surprisingly, given that CCTs are typically used in developing countries where resources are limited. So one study that look at only two levels of transfer is Filmer and Shady, and that is the only exception I'm aware of. And there are some other non-experimental studies that give some insights into cost effectiveness, but the literature is pretty thin. So what we want to achieve in this study is to look at cost-effective design, cost-effective interventions in order to increase school attendance from several angles. So we look at just information treatment, where we send SMS text messages to the households. And we also look at the use of loss framing, which I'm going to elaborate in a minute. And we look at different levels of transfer. So we don't have a lot of time, so I can't really talk too much about the literature, but this study relates to the loss aversion literature. So if you're not familiar, basically, the idea is that people tend to respond to losses more strongly than the same amount of gains. And there are some studies that look at the effect of loss aversion design, but the use of loss aversion in educational context is very limited. And the couple of studies that are already existing, they are all done in the US. Our context is very different. We do it in Bangladesh rather than US, and we are giving cash to households instead of giving student directly on spot or to the teacher. And this study also relates to information treatment literature, because we give information to the household. So let me describe the study design. So we conduct this field experiment in Gaibanda district of Bangladesh, which is located in the northern western part of Bangladesh. This is a relatively poor area within Bangladesh, and it's prone to seasonal flooding and drought. Now, we have three participating study secondary schools. Why do we focus on secondary school? Well, today, most kids go to primary school anyway, so in Bangladesh. So secondary level education is pretty critical in Bangladesh, which correspond to grades 6 to 10. Unfortunately, the terminology of secondary education in Bangladesh may be a little bit confusing because there are different classifications. But when I talk about secondary education, it means grades 6 to 10. And we recruited 400 students in each of years 2017 and 18. And we restricted the sample to be a household that has a mobile phone located in one of the 3 catchment unions, where a union is an administrative unit that is bigger than village, but smaller than subdistricts. And we targeted grades 6 to 7 students in 2017. So that means grade 6 or 7 as of 2017, and we call this old cohort, and we recruited another 400 students who were grade 8 or 9 as of 2018. And we stratified the sample by gender, grade, and school. So as I said, we have 400 students per cohort, and we assigned 100 students to each of the following 4 treatment arms. The first treatment arm is gain treatment arm, where we provide cash, and the cash amount will increase as the student attends school. So that means that the account balance, so you have essentially a virtual account that increases as the number of days attended increases in a given phase. Okay, and households, in order to reinforce this effect, we provide weekly SMS where households get information about how many days the student has missed the school, how many days student attended school, and the cash balance as at the end of the previous week. Now, loss framing is similar, except that the amount will actually decreases as the student misses school. So the amount starts from maximum possible amount that one can earn within a phase, and then it declines. And then we have SMS treatment. This is, we created this because, there may be some impacts of giving attendance information to parents. And peer control group, where households receive neither SMS or cash transfer. So here's the timeline. I apologize that the slide is a little bit busy, but we have 4 intervention phases. There are 2 phases per year, each of 2017 and 18. And in each phase, we have either 60 days or 50 days of intervention that count towards, conditional cash transfer. And we conducted baseline survey before the intervention and before, of course, the treatment assignment was announced. Midline survey was conducted only for the old cohort, and endline survey was conducted for everyone. And the transfer amount was 10 taka per day, which was like 12 US cents per day in 2017. And in 2018, we gave 20 taka per day attended in phase 1. And in phase 2 of 2018, we created 2 sub-treatments. One is low sub-treatment, where students get 20 taka per day, whereas high sub-treatment, students get 30 taka per day. And in all cases, disbursement was done at the end of each phase. What this means is that, the balance is really, really exists within the account, which cannot be retrieved. So the timing and amount of money that is given to households will be exactly the same between loss and gain treatments given particular attendance records within the phase. So this difference is only in the framing. Now, we have 3 data sources. We use attendance data And the most important attendance data comes from morning attendance taken by teachers. And this is an official record. And we use this for CCT calculation. But there are maybe some concerns about using this morning attendance record. Teachers, if they know that student will get cash if they mark attendance, even if the student is absent, then the teacher may become sympathetic, or there may be a collusion between teachers and students. So in order to partially address this issue, we also check attendance from other sources. So one is afternoon attendance taken by class rep, which is daily. And then we also made unannounced random visits about 8 times a year. Besides these, we also got monthly aggregate data, including those for non-intervention days from 2016 and 19. So we have data before the start of intervention and 1 year after the end of intervention. But these come only from the secondary schools. So for grade 6 students in 2017, we don't have attendance data prior to that because they were all in primary school. And we had a short disbursement survey at the time of cash disbursement. And we have a pretty comprehensive household surveys. So first, when I look at attendance, it's pretty consistent across different data sources. So this indicates that morning attendance records maintained by the teachers seem to be pretty reliable. And we don't have any evidence that there is a arbitrary distortion in morning attendance, and there is also no evidence that students in the cash transfer groups, gain and loss treatment, just show up in the morning and then leave right after that. So we have a couple of main specifications that we use for the empirical analysis. Equation 1, essentially we regress daily attendance record on the treatment dummies plus some fixed effects, cohort, school, grade fixed effect. And the main specification we use include unbalanced baseline variables, which are position of agricultural land and TV or radio, but omission of these don't really change the results. We also include time specific fixed effects. So that's equation 1. Equation 2, we use record prior to the intervention, monthly. So we use monthly aggregate, and then we include individual level fixed effect and use different double difference strategy. So here are the main results. So as you can see, regardless of the attendance indicator, we pretty much get a highly significant impact from all 3 treatment arms. Gain and loss is the largest, consistently larger than gain and SMS, but the difference between loss and gain is typically insignificant. SMS has a positive and significant impact on attendance, but again, it tends to be smaller than gain and loss treatments.
You have about 3 minutes. Thank you.
And then here is the DID specification. As you can see, the main results remain unchanged. So this uses the data from 2016 and to 18. I have a version that uses the data up to 2019 in order to see whether the effect persists. And there's some indication of the persistence of effects. We also collected, social network data, friendship data, and we see some evidence that there is a spillover effect. So this gain prop, loss prop, SMS prop, control prop, these refer to the proportion of friends who are in each of these groups. Now, when you sum up these proportions, it doesn't add up to 1 because there are also students who are outside conduct this study. That's the reason why we have 4 of these. And we also have attendance data at the section level, and section level also indicates that there's some peer effect. So and the results are consistent with anecdotal evidence that school attendance is a sort of joint decision made with friends. There are some additional results which I can't elaborate due to the lack of time, but we see that marginal impact of transfer is diminishing, and loss seems to have a larger impact, particularly for agricultural households in phase 2, 2018. And understanding how CCT works is quite important in order for it to have an impact. We don't find any impact on child labor, but there is a reduction in early marriage. So in conclusion, I'm not going to repeat all the findings, but there are positive impacts from CCT treatments, but SMS also has a significantly positive effect. So if you're a policymaker and if you care about how much attendance you can increase from the budget you have, SMS may be the most cost-effective from the perspective of the policymakers. Of course, from the social perspective, if you believe that the transfer doesn't increase or reduce the social surplus, then loss treatment is the most cost-effective intervention. And we also find that the intensive margin is important. So if you want to do a cost-effective intervention, intensive margin should be paid as much attention as whether you do it or not. Okay, extensive margin. Thank you very much.
I have one question on your last comment about intensive margin, sure. And that I was wondering about if there have been any CCT already in this school area, because in Bangladesh, this conditional transfer, especially targeting girls, has been very popular. So is what you're measuring is sort of an additive effect to existing one, or something that is completely new, so that this margin and this inverted U-shaped curve you mentioned in the paper is something that is really the threshold amount that is best done for this community.
Right. So I guess I have to take back this inverted U-shape part because it was not sufficiently substantiated in the paper. But about the pre-existing CCT program in Bangladesh, there are some programs that is meant to support poorer households in Bangladesh, and so you can think of this as a policy that is in addition to it, but since this is a CCT, its existence doesn't really matter so much. It might affect it might create an impact heterogeneity, but when we are interested in the average treatment effect, the pre-existence of CCT, well, it's not really CCT, but CCT type policy does not really matter.
Thank you.